Hello everyone, welcome to another Watch It Played Q&A show. I'm Matthew, and together with a bunch of your help, let's answer all of the internet's burning board game questions. Our first question this month is, how is it possible to compare No Thanks to Tigris and Euphrates? Top 100s make no sense. Correct. You can't. That is the answer to that question. All ranking lists of board games, even an aggregated list of sorts, which is like the BGG rankings, they're all still deeply personal, subjective, and warped by everything else that goes on in our lives. Don't get me wrong. Top lists, top 10s, us board gamers, we love them. We really do. I remember getting into the hobby. What did I do? I watched a bunch of top 10s. But the actual lists themselves, how real are they? How useful are they? How can you judge this big game here, like Yellow Yancy, Tigris and Euphrates? How does that fare against these little games over here? How can you really compare? You can't, but you can. It's just your feeling. I mean, a game like Skull King, which is a little trick-taking card game where you've got to try and bet on how many tricks you're going to win each round. It's a fantastic game. I think Grandpa Beck's make it now. That's in my top 20 games of all time. The reason being is because I've had numerous times in my life where I played that and it's been the funniest thing that's ever happened at that time. Some of those amazing board game events like a weekend away and it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and our version that we've got is an old Schmidt version of the game and it only comes in German, so everyone, instead of going like 1, 2, 3 and then betting because you put your fingers out to see how many tricks you're going to win, everyone's going like eins, zwei, drei, smacking on the table and stuff. It's 3 o'clock. Everyone else is angry that we're doing that, but that's not the point. Just raucous laughter. I've made friends playing that game. So to me, I rank it higher. And that's all there is to it. Maybe there's another trick-taking card game, Wizard. Very similar game. It's not in my top 100 at all. It's the things that we add to them. Things that really propel a lot of games in my personal top lists of all times are the nostalgia of the game, the emotional connections that the game had. Those games in my collection I'll never get rid of because of the times I played that game with people. And it means something to me, and that elevates the game. And is that what people are watching my list for, maybe? The top 10 games? No, I want to know what the best tile placement games are, not the one that you feel something about. Which one's the best? So that's going to be such a big part of it. It's a bit ethereal, almost. The question that I normally try to answer, though, when we're being technical about top 10, the best games of all time, is I try to add in a metric which kind of helps elevate some of the smaller games into the lists, because a lot of these get passed by the wayside. And that is, how fun is the game? We're ranking board games. How fun was it to play? How fun is it? You know, there's lots of things that go into it. How easy is it to teach? How quick are the rules? What the components like? How beautiful is the artwork? Artwork is going to skew some ratings, I tell you. But how fun was it? And that is something I really try to put into account when I'm making these lists. You know, Tigris and Euphrates, well, for me, Yellow and Yancy, let's not go into the debate, but for me, Yellow and Yancy is a top 10 game of all time. It's thinky, deep, strategic, tactical, masterful, simple to learn, got great depth and wonderful balance of rules and the balance in the game in general. It's just a perfectly wonderful game that I think also this version, great artwork, great components. It's a beautiful game. But on the other hand, Fuji Flush, which is just here, is hilarious. And that's probably my top 20 games. Are they similar in any way, shape or form? No. So I think when we're doing this, these is our top 10s even make sense. I think you just have to really take into account the fact that we're all biased. Everything is subjective. And for me, again, that is a 10 out of 10. For you, even though you can appreciate it's a decent game, it's just never going to be there. It's because we don't share the same experiences around that game. How about you? How do you judge a game? Do the small games that you love make it into your top 100, into top 10? Is it all these bigger, grander affairs that seem to be elevated in your estimation? What games are in your top 10 that you just don't think are going to be in anyone else's top 10 because you have a connection to them? I'd love to see that in the comments below. The next question I think is brilliant. It's, what's the worst thing about the board game industry? Well. I would say the worst thing, I've got a list of things here, and I think we're very lucky to have a great industry of board games. I think it's full of wonderful people, wonderful games that really, at its heart, is all about trying to have as much fun as possible, and hopefully, the industry side of it make some money along the way. But a lot of people is trying to express themselves in a way that is going to bring joy to others, and that's pretty wonderful when you think about an industry. But I would like that if convention season could be a thing again. Convention season doesn't exist anymore. Convention season is all the time. I remember 10 years ago, the games The Hobby, people go, oh, well, it's the start of convention season. And, I think it was Origins that maybe started convention season for a lot of people, or maybe one of the BGG cons. But now, PAX is in December, There's a lot of extra little conventions, smaller conventions. Aircon, it's a great convention that just didn't exist 10 years ago. And that's, March. Convention season in the UK used to be UK Games Expo around July, then people might go to Essen. Essen, who knows when Essen's going to be nowadays? I'd like a convention season to exist again, so we can all just have some time off. Another thing I hate's a strong word, but strongly dislike in a real way is the board game industry is not a professional industry. There are some fantastic professionals within this industry, and obviously we have bigger, bolder, conglomerate corporations in the industry, as well as, your mom and pop shop, which has got a really cool game. There's 2 people that work there, and your brother's doing the artwork, that type of thing. And that's a fun dynamic to sometimes navigate, because we have in this industry sometimes a lack of professionalism, which bugs me. And of course, I'm going to be just as guilty as anyone else at that, because I'm grown to be more professional as the day's gone on, right? But I hope, have I? But things like responding to emails, following through with the things that were in the email, reading the entirety of the email before asking questions that were answered in the email as per my previous message. That type of thing. We get a lot in this industry, and it's just the fact of the matter, and it happens in lots of industries, where instead of hiring someone, we get, my mate can do that. And your mate might be the person that you can afford, but they aren't the person for the job. That happens all the time. So I would love the industry to reach more of a level of professionalism across the board without going too far. There's some parts of this industry which I think are just, I wouldn't want the industry to go that way. Another thing that I think damages the board game industry, and I mean the content and publisher dynamic and the way that reacts with the audience and the consumer, if you will, is the just barefaced unwillingness for a lot of publishers, because everyone thinks publishers aren't to blame in this, but publishers and content creators, unwillingness to learn the difference between a review and a preview. And this has been gone on ad nauseum with so many times by so many people, but there is a real unwillingness for this to happen. I mean, obviously we want a transparency. That's one thing that I think is within the area of professionalism. If someone's getting money for something somewhere, really, it's the law to tell people that that is the case, first and foremost. Just because, no one's watching these videos, or there's only, it's only a small channel and it's a small publisher, it doesn't matter. You've got to be clear, you've got to be precise, you've got to be legal, you've got to be honest. A lot of this isn't some kind of duplicitous backseat arrangements where cash is being handed out. It really is, in my opinion, I mean, I don't know what the affairs of others, but it really is a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge about how these things are meant to be done, which comes to that professionalism in the industry as well. I'd love to see summit held each year where content creators and some lawyers and some publishers could all get together and have talks and conversations and stuff. That'd be good. I think that would improve the industry for everyone. Because sometimes I'll get asked to do a review, but what they actually want is a preview. And I have to say, you want a preview because the money is changing hands here, so it cannot be a review. Yeah, I think the difference in a preview and a review, if I could nail one thing down in the industry, that would probably be what it was. And the final question we have is, should games have a handicap? I read this and thought, oh my gosh, yes, of course they should. That's such a good idea. Sometimes you're playing a game with someone and they've played it 20 times and they're going to beat you. But the person who has played 20 times wants an opponent who they can play, and they want to play to their best ability. They don't want to tie one hand behind their back. Is that where the word handicap comes from? Huh. So setting some rules in place in games where there's like a strict handicap, you won't be able to do it with all games, but where there's like a handicap, and you can say, or if you're playing, for instance, not to be insulting, but if you're playing with children, you're playing a game and it's, kids can play along and stuff, but you're going to beat them. Unless it's a dexterity game and they're going to beat you. Then you feel really bad about yourself. A game that you're gonna play with kids, you just go, you have half the amount of time to take your turns that the kids have. And it kind of balances itself out. I think more games should do this. I can't think of any games that do that. If you have any ideas and any games examples, put them below because I would love to see what they are. But I can imagine in something like the Castles of Burgundy, some of the boards that you can play with in that game are better than others. Some are going to probably get you more points over the course of the game, the way the rules of the game. A lot of it is if you finish areas earlier on in the game, you get more points. And some of these boards have lots of small areas to fill in, so you can get a big jump start. So I think you can balance Castle Burgundy out a little bit from a seasoned veteran of the game to a newcomer just by which board people play on. I think there's space in my life for that to exist. It's really for people who play games a lot and also not interested in enjoying just destroying someone for the sake of destroying them in a game. I think handicaps in games would be a really smart idea for some games. I mean, if I'm playing Magic the Gathering and I only get to draw a hand of 5, that doesn't seem fair, does it? So I don't want to do that at all. That doesn't seem fun. So I think there'll be a balance to be had here. Yeah, handicaps in games, I am not against. I think that's a good idea on a case-by-case basis. Don't tell me that I get 6 extra gold at the start of the game because I'm a dum-dum. I'm not gonna go home feeling good. I'd rather just lose, fair and square, honestly. So maybe there's a balance to be had there. Let me know, what do you think about handicaps in board games? I think it's an idea that could be good. Thank you so much for being here for another month of Q&As here on What You Played. If you've got any answers to any of the questions this month, please put them down below so we can share some knowledge and I can learn a few things as well. I'd love to see your comments and answers down below. Until next time, everyone, thanks so much for being here and I'll see you next month.